Have you ever wondered why you can't stop thinking about someone no matter how much time has passed, or how hard you try to let go? Whether it's an old flame, a lost friendship, or someone who barely played a role in your life, their presence lingers in your mind like an echo that won't fade. It's not just memory, it's something deeper. But what does it mean? In this video, we'll explore what renowned psychologist Carl Jung believed about recurring thoughts, projections, and the hidden symbols within our unconscious. You'll discover that thinking of someone repeatedly isn't always about them, it's often about you. This isn't just a psychological explanation, it's a journey inward. You'll learn how the people who haunt your thoughts may represent repressed emotions, unhealed wounds, or even parts of your identity that are trying to emerge. By the end of this video, you won't just understand why you're thinking of this person, you'll know what to do with those thoughts. You'll walk away with clarity, emotional strength, and a deeper understanding of your psyche. If you've been searching for closure, healing, or just peace of mind, this video is your mirror. Don't look away. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated on all our latest content. And this is where the exploration becomes profoundly intimate, where the quiet mystery of the mind begins to speak in whispers we can no longer ignore. Why do we keep thinking of this one person over and over again? Is it truly because we share a deep, unbreakable bond with them? Or is it because our soul is desperately trying to point us towards something we've buried inside ourselves? If every persistent thought is a message from the unconscious, then to ignore it is like turning our back on a part of our truth. It's like walking past a crying child in the dark, pretending we don't hear the pain calling out to be seen, to be held. Our mind doesn't scream, it nudges. It repeats symbols, images, and familiar faces until we finally pause and ask, what are you trying to show me? When this person floods our thoughts, what emotions arise? Is it sorrow masked as longing? A nostalgic ache that wraps around our chest? Or perhaps hope bright, fragile, and trembling? Each of these feelings is a thread, and if we dare to follow it, it may lead us directly to the core of who we are. Carl Jung believed the journey of individuation, the process of becoming whole, requires us to integrate every shadowed, forgotten, or silenced part of our psyche. That means we can't simply suppress these thoughts, nor should we dismiss the strange energy that ties us to certain people. Instead, we must gently, courageously listen, because sometimes it's not about the person at all. It's not about what they did or didn't do. It's not about whether they love us, miss us, or even think of us. Sometimes they are simply a mirror, a beautifully haunting mirror, reflecting a part of ourselves we've long denied. Their image, their voice, their presence, it might be showing us a wound that never healed, a part of ourselves we've been too afraid to embrace, or a desire we've buried so deep that we forgot it ever existed. But what happens when their presence becomes heavy? When they intrude on our peace, uninvited, like a ghost lingering at the edge of our consciousness, when we don't want to think of them, yet we do. Over and over again, Jung would tell us it isn't the person who's tormenting us, it's our projection. It's what we've attached to their image. A memory, a need, a fantasy, a fear. Sometimes, what we call love or obsession is a desperate attempt to patch a hole in our spirit, and the unconscious is relentless. It will keep knocking until we answer. Because every person who takes up residence in our thoughts is a symbol, a message, a metaphor. The ones we think about the most are often reflections of the parts of ourselves still crying out for acknowledgement. So we must ask, what does this person truly represent? Is it the warmth of love we never received? Is it a freedom we don't feel worthy of? Is it a life path we're too scared to walk? We often hold on to someone mentally, thinking it will somehow fix the storm brewing inside us. But the truth is, no external figure can heal what must be addressed within. The resolution isn't out there. It never was. It's here, in the raw, trembling silence of our own heart. Jung believed human beings are connected by more than just flesh and words. He spoke of energy, of archetypes, of synchronicity. And yes, some spiritual paths believe that a soul tie or karmic bond may still be at work when a person won't leave our thoughts. But even then, it is not always a call to reunite with them physically. Often, it's a call to heal the meaning we've given to that connection. Maybe this person awakened something in us. Maybe they cracked open a door we thought was sealed forever. Maybe they were never meant to stay, but to show us what was possible. So when they return to our thoughts, especially in moments of inner crisis or deep transformation, it's not random. It's never random. These are not accidents of the mind. They are sacred echoes from within, asking us to stop, to feel, and to understand. The most difficult question then is this: is this a divine connection, or is it an illusion crafted by my fear of letting go? Jung tells us to be wary of the ego and of the stories we create to keep ourselves safe. Maybe they're thinking of me too. Maybe it's fate. Maybe I'm supposed to wait. These are comforting stories. Bah, the mind is clever, and it will disguise fear as destiny if we're not careful. This is why self-awareness is not optional. It is essential. We must ask not only why this person continues to visit our thoughts, but for what reason. What am I being shown? What truth have I refused to face? The answers may sting, they may shake us, but they will also set us free, because healing doesn't come from forgetting. It comes from seeing clearly, from listening, from understanding. Only then do we strip these thoughts of their power and allow them to become what they were always meant to be, not tormentors, but teachers. And yes, it's hard. The unconscious doesn't speak in words. It speaks in symbols, emotions, and shadows. The ones we obsess over may not be meant to stay, but they were meant to awaken us. That person you can't stop thinking about. Maybe they're not a missing piece. Maybe they're the map. And maybe, just maybe, they've been leading you home to yourself. This is where the shadow steps onto the stage of our inner world and plays a role more powerful than we often realize. Carl Jung defined the shadow as the hidden part of our psyche, the version of ourselves we've tucked away, denied, or repressed because it doesn't align with the image we so desperately want to present to the world. Maybe it's a part of our personality we were told wasn't lovable. Maybe it's a fire we dimmed to keep others comfortable. Maybe it's a dream we abandoned because it felt too bold, too risky, too impossible. And the heartbreaking paradox is this: the more we push the shadow away, the more it haunts us. It doesn't disappear, it just grows stronger in the dark. It's in this very darkness where obsessions are born. This is how a person can become a symbol, an idol, a source of emotional gravity. We don't just think about them, we cling to them. We idealize them, we imagine they complete us. And without them, it feels like something essential in us is missing. But is it them we're longing for? Or is it what they represent? If we find ourselves constantly looping back to one person, thinking of them at odd hours, dreaming about them, feeling an ache that won't go away, it might not be about love. It might not even be about them at all. Perhaps their presence is a mirror, reflecting a piece of ourselves we haven't yet been brave enough to reclaim. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. They might represent a freedom we never gave ourselves permission to chase, a passion we buried under responsibility, a sense of safety or adventure or worthiness that we've never truly believed we could cultivate on our own. And maybe, just maybe, we've bound ourselves to a story that ended long ago. A story we keep replaying in our minds, like a movie we know by heart but can't stop watching. It's familiar. It's comforting in its pain, but it's no longer real. We're not who we were in that story, and they're not who we imagine them to be. This is the soul-stirring moment where we must ask ourselves the hardest question of all. Are we thinking of this person for who they truly are, or for what they symbolize within us? Jung's wisdom echoes here with profound clarity. The answer doesn't lie in the other person. It never has. The answer is, and always will be, within us. It's not about suppressing the thoughts. It's not about forcing ourselves to forget. It's about gently, courageously, peeling back the layers and asking, what does this thought want me to see? Because only when we understand the deeper meaning behind the connection, only when we name the unspoken need, the hidden emotion, the unclaimed truth, can we begin to loosen the grip these thoughts have on us. Sometimes the mind keeps us tied to a person because the story isn't finished. Maybe there's a lesson still waiting to be learned, or a piece of closure we've yet to claim. Other times, the thought lingers not because we need them, but because letting go would mean facing the terrifying beauty of the unknown. And that's the hardest part, isn't it? Letting go doesn't just mean releasing them. It means stepping into the vast, quiet space of uncertainty, the void, the unfamiliar. And that takes courage. That takes faith. But here's what we must remember. No one shows up in our mind without meaning. If someone keeps reappearing in your thoughts, there's a reason. There's either an energetic bond that still needs to be untangled, or they represent something vital in your journey, something your soul is aching to integrate as you move toward becoming your truest self. This is the moment where we stand at a crossroads. Do we allow ourselves to stay stuck in the repetitive, exhausting cycle of intrusive thoughts and longing? Or do we choose to transform this obsessive energy into fuel for our growth? Because in the end, the person was never the point. The awakening is. Jung's concept of individuation calls us to become whole, not by chasing others, but by facing ourselves. To become who we were always meant to be, we must turn inward and confront the truths we've projected outward onto others. So, if someone keeps resurfacing in your thoughts, consider it an invitation not to reach out to them, but to reach deeper into yourself. Ask, what part of me have I given away? What truth am I finally ready to hold? Only then will you find peace, not through their return, but through your reunion with the parts of yourself you forgot, abandoned, or never dared to love. If we find ourselves idealizing someone, placing them on a pedestal, letting their image linger in our thoughts like a gentle ache or a persistent echo, we must pause and ask ourselves, what are we truly longing for? Is it love, the kind that makes us feel whole? Is it recognition, the deep human desire to be seen, understood, and chosen? Or is it a sense of safety, of being anchored by someone who feels at home? Sometimes, the person we can't stop thinking about is not just a person, they are a symbol, a representation of the life we've been too afraid to live, a path we've avoided because it asks too much of us. And so, instead of walking it, we place that longing onto someone else and call it fate. Carl Jung warned us clearly, unless we take full responsibility for our inner world, our fears, our unlived dreams, our hidden desires, we will keep projecting them onto others. We will unconsciously turn people into vessels carrying parts of our souls that we have yet to accept. And so, the person in our mind isn't necessarily the one who is haunting us. They are pointing us to the part of ourselves that still needs healing, acknowledgement, and integration. That's why this persistent thought isn't something to be silenced or buried. It's a guide, a sacred signal. A flickering light draws us inward toward places we've neglected, avoided, or never fully known. When we become obsessed with someone outside of us, it often reveals a painful truth, that we've become disconnected from our inner landscape. We search for wholeness in someone else because we feel the emptiness inside. And looking inward can be terrifying. It's so much easier to fixate on another person than to sit in the silence of our soul and ask, what am I missing within me? Many spiritual teachings echo this truth. They say souls meet over lifetimes, again and again, to resolve unfinished lessons. So, if someone keeps appearing in your thoughts, and you can't explain why, maybe it's not a coincidence. Maybe it's not an obsession. Maybe it's an energetic bond, a soul contract, a spiritual nudge that's asking for understanding, for completion. Jung's concept of synchronicity, the idea that certain connections are not random, but deeply meaningful, teaches us that some people arrive in our lives as messengers. Their presence challenges us, awakens us, breaks us open. But even then, the most important question remains, is this a real soul connection? Or is it an illusion, woven by the parts of us that are afraid to grow? Here's the hard truth. Our minds can lie to us. They can build entire fantasies out of fear, pain, and longing. Jung reminds us that true awakening begins when we become observers of our thoughts, not prisoners to them. Instead of resisting a person's mental presence, we must approach it with curiosity and compassion. What do you feel when you think of them? Is it peace, warmth, or a sense of divine alignment? Or is it a storm, anxiety, desperation, emotional chaos? These feelings matter. They are clues. If thinking of someone fills you with dread, if it tightens your chest and makes your soul feel smaller, your mind might be using that image as a distraction from something deeper. But if their presence inspires you, encourages your growth, and opens your heart to beauty and transformation, then maybe, just maybe, their presence is sacred. Still, even then, the lesson isn't about them. It's about you. It's not their existence that matters most. It's what you do with that thought, how you use it to grow, to evolve, to come home to yourself. Jung urges us to stop looking outward for meaning and start diving into the depths within. Instead of asking, why can't I stop thinking about them? Try asking, what part of me am I projecting onto this person? Because here's the truth we all need to remember. Every answer we've been chasing in someone else has always been inside us. The solution was never outside, but the mind, it tricks us. It tells us that peace will come when they return, when they notice us, when they love us back. But it never works that way. When someone occupies your thoughts day and night, it can feel like you've lost control over your own world. It's as if you're haunted by a ghost that doesn't even realize they're living rent-free in your heart. But no one can have that power over us unless we give it to them. Jung would say, this fixation isn't really about them. It's about something inside of you that wants to be seen. Their image, in this context, becomes a mirror, a hauntingly accurate reflection of a part of your soul that's been trying to rise to the surface. So instead of analyzing their behavior, their intentions, their past, turn the mirror around. Ask yourself, what personal wound is connected to this thought? What version of myself have I wrapped around this person? Is this an echo from childhood, a pattern I've repeated, or a dream I'm still too afraid to live? The psyche speaks in symbols, and when we ignore those symbols, they only get louder. This is where the sacred process of individuation begins to take shape. Individuation is not about cutting off emotions or avoiding people who trigger us. It's not about isolating ourselves or pretending we don't care. It's about integration, bringing all the forgotten, disowned parts of our being into the light. So, if someone's image lingers in your mind, don't curse it. Don't run from it. Study it. What is it showing you about you? Because maybe, just maybe, they're not the destination. Maybe they're the compass. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons helpful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. This includes the people who leave deep imprints on us, the ones who live in our minds, rent-free, who awaken emotions we can't quite explain, and who stir up a storm inside us without ever lifting a finger. They enter our thoughts without invitation, and yet they feel like they've always belonged there. But healing doesn't begin by forcing them out. It begins by asking, why are they here? What role are they playing in the unfolding story of who we are becoming. If someone's image haunts you, don't dismiss it as a coincidence. It's not a punishment from the universe, nor is it some cruel twist of fate. It's a call, a soul-deep invitation from your unconscious, saying, "Look here, there's something important you haven't faced." And until you listen, truly listen, that thought, that person, that feeling will keep returning. This is where Carl Jung offers us one of the most life-changing gifts, the ability to observe ourselves without fear, shame, and judgment. He teaches us not to fight our thoughts or run from them, but to witness them, to sit in the quiet discomfort of our emotions and say, "What are you trying to show me?" Because the thought itself is never the problem. It's what rides beneath it that matters. It's the energy, the ache, the emotional undercurrent that speaks the loudest. When you think of this person, do you feel peace or panic, hope or heartbreak, wholeness or lack? If the thought brings anxiety, longing, or an aching sense of emptiness, chances are it's not a soul connection, it's a soul cry. It's not love, it's a projection of something missing within yourself. And that's hard to admit, but it's liberating once you do. Yet, not all thoughts are warnings. Some people enter our psyche to push us toward growth, to awaken dormant parts of our being, to shine a light on what we've been too scared to see. If thinking of them leads you to greater awareness, if it helps you evolve, if it cracks open parts of your heart that have long been sealed, then there is a sacredness in that connection. Jung reminds us again and again, no one appears in our mind without purpose. If someone takes root in your thoughts, it's not to torment you. It's to reveal you, to help you see what still lies in shadow, what needs to be reclaimed, healed, or finally set free. And this leads to the most sacred question of all. Now that this person has shown me something about myself, what am I going to do with that truth? Because this is the crossroads, the point where you either stay stuck in the loop of longing, or you rise and transform that energy into wisdom, into healing, into freedom. But beware, the mind is cunning. It will convince you that you're thinking about them because they are meant to be yours, that there's a divine reason you can't stop, that destiny is playing its hand, and sometimes that might be true. The universe is indeed filled with synchronicities and soul contracts that defy logic. But other times, most times, it's just the mind clinging to comfort, spinning stories because it's terrified of the void, terrified of what life might feel like if we finally let go. The real danger isn't the thought itself, it's the meaning we attach to it. We can either use it to dig deeper into our soul, or we can let it become a chain that keeps us stuck in the same emotional place for years. Jung warned us that the unconscious cannot tell the difference between what's real and what's projected, but we can learn to see the difference. We can become conscious of our illusions. And the way we do that is simple, but not easy. We begin by asking, what does this thought make me feel? What am I chasing in this person that I haven't given myself? If thinking of them brings heartache, longing, or a sense of being incomplete, then maybe you're looking for something you need to give you. And no one else can do that. But if their presence brings inspiration, courage, or deeper understanding, then perhaps their role in your life isn't to stay, but to awaken, to light the match that ignites your inner transformation. Jung would speak here of the anima and animus, the masculine and feminine energies we all carry within. The people we obsess over often reflect those internal energies we haven't integrated. It's not the person we're drawn to, it's the version of ourselves they awaken. That's why they keep returning in our mind, not because they're our missing half, but because they reflect a piece of our inner self we've disowned. And so, at this point, awareness becomes our greatest power. We don't always get to choose who crosses our minds, but we do get to choose what we do with that thought. Will we let it consume us? Or will we gently step back, observe, and ask, what is this teaching me? Because the truth is, it's not them we need to chase. It's ourselves. It's our wholeness. And sometimes, the person we can't stop thinking about is simply the symbol our psyche chose to show us where we still need to grow. If someone's image lingers in your heart, day after day, maybe the story isn't finished. But maybe it was never their story to begin with. Maybe it's yours waiting for you to write the next chapter. And here arises the final, most haunting question. If we stop thinking of this person, what will remain? Who are we, really, without that familiar ache in our chest? Without that recurring thought that's followed us through sleepless nights, quiet mornings, and everything in between? Maybe what we've called emptiness is freedom in disguise. Maybe that void we've feared so deeply isn't a dark and lonely place at all, but the sacred space where our truest self has been waiting all along. Because within that silence where their voice no longer echoes and their memory no longer holds us hostage, there is finally room for us. Our desires, our truth, our wholeness. Jung insisted that individuation, the courageous, lifelong process of integrating every fragmented part of our psyche, isn't for the faint of heart. It asks us to stop running, to stop reaching for others to soothe the discomfort we refuse to face inside ourselves. And that's the real work, because the moment we release the person we've projected our wounds and dreams onto, the moment we gently free them from carrying the weight of our unmet needs, we finally begin to uncover who we truly are beyond illusion, beyond longing, beyond attachment. That persistent thought about someone isn't just a mental glitch. It's an emotional flare sent up from the unconscious. It's your soul asking, why am I holding on to this image? Why can't I let go? And the answer is rarely about them. It's about the story we've created around them, the meaning we've assigned, the unspoken narrative loops beneath the surface, one that whispers, I am incomplete without them. I was better with them. I need them to feel whole. But that story is not true. It's a belief we've carried so long that we forgot it was even optional. The person doesn't have you trapped. The narrative does. Only when we dare to rewrite that inner script, only when we question it, challenge it, and finally release it, can we begin to walk in freedom. Jung calls this the path of awakening. And yes, it's painful. It asks us to grieve not just the person, but the idea of who we thought we were with them. It requires us to look at the parts of ourselves we've projected outward because we were too afraid to own them. We often cling to someone's memory not because of who they are now, or even who they were, but because of what they represented, a missing part of ourselves we haven't yet dared to reclaim. That's the paradox. The pain doesn't come from losing them. It comes from believing we can't access what they brought out in us without them. So instead of chasing that feeling through someone else, Jung invites us to turn inward, to ask, what part of me did I place in that person? What emotion, what hope, what power did I give to them that was always meant to be mine? Maybe they represent a deep yearning, a forgotten dream, a version of ourselves that once felt alive, inspired, or safe. Maybe they mirror a fear we've never voiced, or a desire we've buried beneath layers of responsibility and self-denial. But when we take this lens, when we view the recurring thought, not as a prison, but as an invitation, we shift everything. That thought is no longer an obstacle. It becomes a portal, a sacred passage leading us into our depths, into the inner rooms we've never dared to enter until now. Through this gaze, we begin to understand the most freeing truth of all. We don't need that person to complete us. They never were the missing piece. We were simply looking outside for something that's been quietly living inside us all along. Yes, we may like the idea that our identity is tied to another's presence. It's comforting, familiar, romantic even. But Jung reminds us that true individuation, true psychological and spiritual maturity happens the moment we stop outsourcing our wholeness. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons helpful, please comment on number 3 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. And when we do, something beautiful unfolds. Our psyche begins to heal. The projections we placed onto others begin to dissolve. And in that quiet unraveling, we find our truest essence. Not the version of ourselves that exists through someone else's eyes, but the one that has always been waiting patiently beneath the noise. The act of letting go, of releasing the thoughts that bind us to someone who no longer belongs in our emotional orbit, isn't an act of loss. It's an act of returning. A returning to self, to center, to soul. Jung doesn't ask us to forget. He doesn't ask us to cut people out like they never mattered. Instead, he invites us to understand, to pull the thread, to go deeper than we've ever dared to go. Because inside every obsession is a mirror. And if we're brave enough to look into it, we'll find not the person we're chasing, but the parts of ourselves we've left behind. So the next time that person enters your mind again, don't shame yourself for it. Don't panic. Instead, pause. Ask, what part of myself am I ignoring? What longing or lesson is this thought trying to reveal? Because once you begin to explore those questions with honesty and heart, the obsession starts to loosen its grip. The thought loses its urgency. It stops being a haunting and becomes a guide. And that's when real growth begins. Not by forgetting the person, but by finally fully remembering yourself. As we become more conscious of these patterns, these silent loops of thought and projection, we begin to understand something profoundly liberating, that the person we keep thinking about is not the root of our fixation, but the reflection of our inner dialogue. What we truly see in them is ourselves. They become a symbol and emblem of something deeper, a mirror that doesn't just reflect our love or longing, but our fears, our forgotten dreams, our unmet needs. They reveal the pieces of our psyche we've locked away, the parts of ourselves still waiting to be acknowledged, healed, and embraced. True liberation doesn't come from cutting them out or forcing ourselves to forget. It comes the moment we stop looking outward for what can only ever be found within. So the real question we must ask ourselves isn't, why can't I stop thinking about this person? But rather, what is this connection showing me about who I am? What truth is hiding beneath the ache? What invitation is buried in the repetition? Because when we dare to answer that question honestly, courageously, we step out of obsession and into transformation. We stop circling someone else's orbit and finally begin to return home to our souls. As Jung reminded us, the path to freedom begins the moment we stop projecting outward what we were always meant to find within. This journey we've walked together through longing, reflection, and the silent spaces of the heart is not just about understanding someone else. It's about understanding ourselves. Because the mind, in all its complexity, doesn't just remember people at random. It brings us back to the places where we've been emotionally interrupted. It brings us to the wounds, the gifts, and the truths we've been too afraid to face. What if the person who haunts your thoughts is not a curse, but a compass? What if the memory that won't let go is a gentle teacher guiding you toward the life you've been too afraid to claim? That constant thought, that emotional echo, isn't your enemy. It's a sacred message. And if you listen, really listen, it can lead you to the deepest healing of your life. Because every recurring thought, every emotional pull, every unfinished chapter is not about them. It's about you. It's an invitation to break free from the narratives you didn't know you were still telling, to explore the forgotten chambers of your heart, to uncover the power you unknowingly gave away. And when you do, you'll realize the person was never the destination. They were the mirror. And the journey was always leading you back to your reflection. So let this thought, this recurring feeling, become your guide not toward another person, but toward the truth of who you are. That is where your freedom lives. That is where the healing begins. And that is where your most authentic life finally unfolds. Now that we've taken this journey together through the corridors of memory, longing, projection, and self-discovery, I want to turn this over to you. What have you learned about yourself through this reflection? Was there a moment that resonated deeply with your experience? A question that stirred something within you? Or perhaps a realization that helped you see your recurring thoughts in a new light? I invite you to pause, take a breath, and share in the comments one insight you're taking away from this video, one thing you've learned, and more importantly, one thing you're willing to put into practice in your life starting today. Because awareness is powerful, but applied awareness, that's where true transformation begins. And if this video spoke to you in any way, if it gave you comfort, clarity, or courage, please take a moment to leave a comment below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your voice matters here. Your story matters. And you never know who you might inspire just by sharing your own. Until next time, keep looking within, because that's where your true self is waiting.